You're listening to KPFZ 88.1 FM Lake County Community Radio, and this is Holistically Speaking with your host Stephen West, Lake County's naturopathic doctor. And we have a special show tonight about vegetarian and veganism. And before we start with that, I want to say that the opinions expressed on this show, as well as all other shows on KPFZ, are the opinions of the speaker and not necessarily those of Lake County Community Radio, its board, members, or staff here at the station. So, having said that, because especially this is going to be a pretty controversial show, or certainly could go that way, so before we go into that again, I want to talk about a couple of shows coming up actually next week. Today is the 18th of August. Next week, the 25th, John Dewey will be on my show, and he's a teacher of Transcendental Meditation, and we'll be talking about the virtues of TM, something near and dear to my heart for many years. The week after that, my good friend of what I calculated to be 43 years, Brian Hughes, will be on the show. He'll be a remote calling in remotely from St. George, Utah, and he'll be talking about emotional release. In fact, he'll be looking at how our emotions, including those stuck emotions from childhood, can affect our health, and how we can improve chronic health and psychological conditions by finding and quickly and painlessly releasing that trapped emotional energy. So listen for Brian and his wife Susani on the September 1st. That'll be September 1st, 2 weeks from today. So we are also being televised live here, and we're looking forward to that. Allen Markowski is showing us what we look like here on the monitor. So this is going to be fun. In fact, in my over 6 years on this show, I don't believe we've had a televised show yet, a taped show yet. So this is a real breakthrough. So we're all going to be stars here. With me is our Lori Patatska, well-respected host of our monthly vegan potlucks, which have been going on for how many years now, Lori? Okay, first of all, let me just put your mics. It'd be nice for you to have mics on. Okay, tell us how many years now you've been hosting the vegan potluck.
It's been just over 5 years.
Over 5 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So those happen the first Sunday of every month at someone's home anywhere in Lake County, actually.
Yep, we have a different host every month.
Yeah, great. So it's a chance to meet people of like mind and spirit, and I strongly recommend you take a look at that. And before we go on with that, Lori, what's your contact information? So if people want to attend a vegan potluck, and by the way, you don't have to be a vegan to attend the potluck.
That's correct.
It is a vegan potluck. So Lori, just briefly before we go into anything else, why don't you tell us just a little bit about the vegan potlucks and give us some contact information?
Yeah, anybody can email me at patatska.pacbell.net. That's PATOTZKA at pacbell.net. And yeah, the first Sunday, 6 o'clock, we have a potluck of the first Sunday of the month. And anyone's welcome. The only requirement is that the food be completely vegan, no animal products whatsoever. So, yeah, contact me if you'd like to know more or want to get on my email list so I can send you monthly notices.
Okay, terrific. And then over here on mic 3, we have Vicki Blacklen.
Close
Vicki.
enough.
So go ahead, tell me, correct me. Go ahead.
Oh, that's good. That's close
Okay,
enough, yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this
Vitamins
promises,
are kicking in. You're doing good.
Good, okay. This promises to be a lively show. And folks, by the way, our call-in number, in case you didn't know, is 263-3435. So feel free and able to call in at any time, voice your concern or question, add to the show, because this show is really all about you. It's all about our community here. And we want to reflect that by opening and inviting your comments to come in on the show. Again, 263-3435. Okay, a couple of PSAs, one or two anyway, before we get into the heart and soul of our talk. There's a health fair and free dinner. That's called Preventing Diabetes, which is germane to the workshop I'm giving this next Saturday, actually. Preventing Diabetes and Promoting Wellness in Future Generations. That will be this coming Thursday, August 21st, from 1 to 7 p.m. at the LCTHC parking lot. That's Lake County Tribal Health, for your information. Lake County Tribal Health parking lot. Free health screenings and education, medical, dental, diabetes, and behavioral health. There'll be an Indian taco dinner, raffle prizes, food demos and exercise activities, children's activities, native dancers, garden tours. And for more information, contact Virginia at 707-263-8382, extension 1616. Again, that's Virginia at 707-263-8382, extension 1616. That's Lake County Tribal Health. And their phone number is 707-263-8382, and then the 800 number is 750-7181. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to read here because I want to get into this very important subject, as are all the subject matters every week here on KPFZ on Holistically Speaking. So I'm just going to jump in the deep end myself and talk, and this is a very deep end, by the way, because what I'm going to talk to you about now I've never said publicly before. But you know what? I'm not running for office. So I'm going to talk about it. So the question is, Stephen West, how or why did you become vegetarian? And for me, it all started back in the late 60s, in early 1969. And I was a bit of an explorer, an adventurer, you might say, and took several substances many, many times over that couple of years before the turn of the decade. And on one of those trippy little experiences, I bit into a not well-cooked hamburger. And eventually I walked over to a mirror and I looked at my face, and there was blood from the hamburger all dripping down the side of my mouth and down my cheek, my chin, etc. Well, that's all it took. That was it. I never ate another hamburger again in my life. I did eat some fish then in the 70s, but basically I gave up all red meat. I don't know why we call it red meat. That's a good question, because the meat in fish looks pretty red to me. And but anyway, hard meat. Let's call it hard meat. I gave up hard meat. It's funny, if you're a vegetarian or you're a vegan and you go into a restaurant and it's a typical restaurant and you tell them you're vegetarian or vegan, or especially if you tell them you're vegetarian, vegan they might get. You don't eat anything close to meat. But vegetarian, they'll say, well, would you like some chicken or fish? We were talking about this before the show. And of course, my comeback is, well, I'm vegetarian. I don't eat anything that, had eyes or brains. And, and they kind of look at me like, oh, okay, well, okay. Sorry I ruffled your feathers. But, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how or why we are looking at being vegan or vegetarian, the reasons for it, the reasons for looking at various diets. I know Vicky's going to talk about, you're going to talk about...
Well, I got more into macrobiotics.
Macrobiotics, yeah. Thank you for refreshing my memory. About macrobiotics. But let me go ahead and start with, this is something, over the last 6 years of this show, I've only talked about in bits and pieces with regards to my own personal experience and why I became vegetarian. And it really, beyond that one experience in the late 60s, I started to do a lot of research on why one would become a vegetarian. And I got into health issues, I got into environmental issues, I got into ethical, moral issues, the whole 9 yards. And I found also over the years, since 1969, that everybody seems to get into vegan or vegetarianism for maybe slightly different reasons. Maybe some general reasons hold together, but there are a ton of reasons, really. In fact, what I'm going to do right now is read to you 30, I'm not going to go through all 30, but I downloaded this actually today, 30 Reasons to Become Vegetarian. It's by Life Research Universal, and this is by Carol Crenna. And again, I'm not going to read all 30 because I don't want to take up that much time on the show, because both Vicki and Lori have a lot of good things to say, and I want to give them their fair share and chance and time on the show. It says, this is by Carol Crenna, says you're in good company. Vegetarian actors Brad Pitt, David Duchovny, Dustin Hoffman, Alec Baldwin, Brooke Shields, Jerry Seinfeld, Michael J. Fox, Anthony Perkins. List goes on and on. Richard Gere, Candice Bergen, Kim Basinger, Woody Harrelson, Mary Tyler Moore, etc. are vegetarians. Vegetarian musicians include Sarah McLachlan, Shania Twain, Bryan Adams, Seal, Morgan Bolton, Lenny Kravitz, Leonard Cohen, Joe Jackson, Indigo Girls, Billy Idol, Bob Dylan, and they don't mention Paul McCartney, of course, a very famous, probably one of the most famous vegetarians on the planet. There it says you'll eat fewer chemicals lower on the food chain. The more chemicals an animal eats, the more you will eat. In every bite, a typical beef, pork, a hot dog contains 7 cancer-causing pesticides. Now, parenthetically, I want to say that in talking to some MDs about tumors and so forth, they found that their labs found that every tumor that they looked for pesticides, they found pesticides in tumors. So definitely they are a carcinogen. It says 7 cancer-causing pesticides in a quarter-pound burger contain 3 cancer-causing substances. The primary source of nuclear radiation contamination in humans is from beef and dairy products. That's from Living Healthy in a Toxic World by David Steinman. Number 3, pesticides, industrial pollutants, and sex hormones are known to cause breast cancer and have estrogenic-like effects that are stored in animal fat. These contaminants tend to accumulate in human breast fat, reaching levels thousands of times greater than in food. Obesity from fatty diets has also been a known cause of breast cancer. That's from Samuel Epstein, the Breast Cancer Prevention Program. Non-vegetarians had 54% more prostate cancer than vegetarians in results from Adventist mortality and health studies. Non-vegetarians had 88% more colon cancer than vegetarians. Non-smoking vegetarians have about half the rate of lung cancer as non-smoking vegetarians. People eating meat 3 or more times per week had more than 2-fold increase in bladder cancer compared with vegetarians, and those consuming meat 4 or more times a week had 66% higher mortality rate from ovarian cancer than vegetarians in the same study. That's from Brenda Davis in the study called Becoming Vegan. Number 5, you can get enough protein as a vegetarian. Of course, parenthetically, I want to say this is always one of the first questions. Well, what do you do for protein? Or, what do you do for B vitamins? You can get enough protein as a vegetarian. According to many nutritionists, you can consume a healthy percentage of complete protein by combining organic lentils, beans, tofu, organic whole grains, free-range eggs, of course, which are taboo for vegans, spinach, and other plant sources. That's from Becoming Vegetarian by Brenda Davis. Minerals. Adequate amounts of iron can be found in organic broccoli, bok choy, figs, whole grain, enriched cereals, and other plants. You can get the required calcium from sesame seeds, beans, tofu, wax beans, hummus, and broccoli. There's more calcium in sesame seeds and broccoli than there is in milk. By the way, also, I want to say that calcium should not be an issue for anybody vegetarian. There are tons of sources of calcium. Okay. And calcium is in cow's milk is easily absorbed by people who have difficulty. Calcium in cow's milk isn't easily absorbed by people who are having difficulty digesting. I think Laurie is going to talk about that in a while too, about children and cow's milk. Yeah. Number 7, you might lose weight by avoiding saturated fat in meat, butter, and animal fat used in baked goods, desserts, and fried foods. Number 8, you won't miss red meat. The veggie meat substitutes and chicken clones made into patties, nuggets, ground round, and steak available in health food stores and delis, frozen food, and produce sections have a great meat-like texture and taste. Now, when I first became vegetarian, but still had that craving for meat, so the mind was, battling with the body, because I felt like my body really wanted that sense of heaviness and fullness that meat gave me. So I went to the local health food store, and this was a Seventh-day Adventist store in Chico. And they had all the look-alike, taste-alike, smell-alike, Worthington and Adventist canned meat look-alike, taste-alike stuff. And so I ate those here and there. I haven't touched any of those in decades, but that's one of the things that I first turned to.
Absolutely.
You save money at restaurants. Most menus offer vegetarian selections, or chefs will oblige to prepare a vegetarian meal, and they're usually less expensive than their meatier counterparts. And many restaurants now feature innovative organic ingredients and salads now at reasonable prices. Nutritional value. Flesh foods are essentially protein and saturated fat. Plant foods are protein, unsaturated essential fat, nutrient-rich carbs, and life-saving enzymes. And here's a big one, too, as far as I am concerned as a naturopath with regards to the disease process. Flesh foods are acid-forming in the body, have no fiber, contain cholesterol, have naturally occurring toxic waste, and cause unhealthy putrefaction bacteria in our intestines, which may contribute to indigestion, illness, and disease. On the other hand, plant foods are alkaline forming in the body because there's that difference. It's called the pH, potential hydrogen, which goes from 0 to 14. It's the blood hydrogen, which is related to oxygen in the blood. So high oxygenated blood, which aligns itself with hydrogen, is more preferable. It's what the body thrives on. So that scale goes from 0 to 14. So 0 to 7 is acid, 7 is neutral, and above that is alkaline. So you want to shoot for, and this is a little controversial, but most people in the health world would say that you want to shoot for being slightly alkaline, about 7.25 to 7.4. If you remain in that range, then you're probably not going to have any major diseases or disorders. It's when you get into the acid range, which aligns with lower oxygen content in the body, that problems start happening because bacteria and viruses start thriving on low oxygenation. Okay, so like I was saying, plant foods are alkaline forming in the body, contain abundant fiber, have no naturally occurring toxic waste, little or no cholesterol, and they don't putrefy as readily because they are much easier to digest. Okay. Most humans would not be able, and this is an interesting one too, because to me this gets into the moral-ethical aspect. Most humans would not be able to kill an animal. Now obviously some can, and if you've grown up on a farm, your mom and dad did it possibly, or grandma or grandpa, and we've got a caller, so let's go ahead and put on our headphones, ladies. Okay. Okay, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, yes. This is kind of a personal question. So I'm not saying my name, but when you suffer from diverticulitis and irritable bowel syndrome, I've been told so many different things about what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no seeds.
Okay.
Okay.
No flax. No. Okay. Yeah.
I eat a lot of rice.
Mm-hmm.
And I eat beans and salad and meat and chicken.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get it.
You don't get what? What's your question?
My question is, why do I still have it?
Because you haven't done the cleansing, my dear.
Okay, what kind of cleansing? Don't tell me I have to have a colonic. No, seriously. Because right now I'm
God says you
right now
must
I'm looking
have
at
a
hemorrhoid
colonic.
surgery.
Okay, let me say this first.
Okay.
I cannot diagnose or prescribe over the air.
Okay.
Okay.
I understand.
So all I can suggest are things that you might possibly look at. And these are things that we as naturopaths go over with every person that comes through our particular turnstile in our office.
It's got to be that green thing that you make smoothies that my sister does every day.
The green drink. You'll get the green drink
out.
out.
You can put a banana or strawberries in it or berries, and it tastes good.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And yogurt.
Okay. She's onto something there.
Well, she's way on cancer, third time.
Well, so you've got to get that out. So, like I was going to say,
Okay.
the first thing we do is detox the system. You've got to get the bad guys out, and there are bad guys in your colon. Okay, if you've got diverticulitis. So we've got to get the bad guys out. So there are lots of ways to chelate or detox your colon. And you could just go ahead and take it upon yourself to say, colon detox. What can I do for colon detox? And you put that in your Google search bar and all kinds of stuff.
I don't have a computer.
Okay, so you go to the library. Do you know how to run a computer? Do you know how to work a computer?
A little bit.
Okay. So this thing called search bar on your home page on your computer, and they'll have that in the library. And it could be Bing, it could be Google, whatever. It's called a search bar. And you type in your question. How do I detox my colon? Okay?
Yeah,
You type that in, and you click on it. The librarian will help you if you need some help.
Right.
And they'll help, so you click on that, and all kinds of web pages will come up on detoxing the colon, detoxing liver, detoxing kidneys, the major toxic waste sites of the body. So all kinds of things will come up. So that's job number one, is really detoxing your system, because you can look at any disorder and say, well, that's a virus or a bacteria or it's a mold or a fungus or whatever, and that might be true, but it's the terrain, the condition of the entire human system that we want to clean up. So you want to clean up your colon, definitely, but we're going to clean up the whole body. So a whole body detox system is great. There are all kinds of people and protocols and programs for whole body detox, but a colon detox would be good for you too. And your sister's onto something with these green drinks. They're very
high. I know. They're
very high in octane. I'm just about
third-time cancer. I've got to ask you this.
Okay.
What do you think about colonoscopies?
I think everybody should do one. No, I'm just kidding.
Like how often?
No, I've never had one personally. I know what they are. I've never had one. I think there's nothing wrong with a little camera going up there.
I don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead and have one.
Let me see what it looks like.
Yeah,
after it was done, because I was out. But I hate that big old gallon jug.
A big gallon jug? Do you have something, Lori, you wanted to say?
Well,
hold on.
Okay.
Lori wanted to say something. Go ahead, pop in,
I just wanted to say I had my first one when I was 50, and at the time they said you should have one about every decade. So I plan to have another one at 60. I didn't care for it a whole lot, too. The colonoscopy itself wasn't bad because I was,
they
put under.
They gave me the Fleet which was, fine.
Yeah, that was
but
nasty,
then
drinking that
I
gallon
worked at
of
Kaiser,
stuff.
and I had to give that Go Lightly, that big old gallon thing, and people hated it. And then I went to the pharmacy, I guess it was last year, unsuspectedly, they gave me this gallon jug. I'm all, oh, heck, I'm not doing this. But now it's kind of getting to the point where something needs to be done.
Well, if you think it needs to be done and you want to have one, and then go ahead by all means and do it. I never dissuade people. It's like, if people want take this pharmaceutical drug or they want chemo, you should do what you feel you need to do. My question or my statement on this is just get educated. Get
Correct.
educated. That's what we do on this show. Get educated, make an informed decision, and then do what's comfortable to you. Most people that come to me with cancer end up taking chemo and radiation because that's what we all do. And for some reason, we reach back into our comfort level, and that's what we do. And so I never dissuade people from chemo and radiation. I do have them strongly recommend they take a healthy regimen of along with the chemo and radiation, because the survival rates are extremely high when you do a lot of green things, oxygenate the system, et cetera, alkalize your system. The survival rates are extremely high with that. But if you feel you need to reach back and do something pharmaceutical for whatever disorder you've got, and that's what you really in your heart want to do, then you got to do it. Then do it.
So can I ask you this? Where are you located?
I'm located in Lower Lake, California.
Lower Lake. Okay. Thank you, Dr. West.
Okay, Lori wanted to say one thing before you get it.
Oh, I just wanted to put in a little. I would highly recommend that you reduce your meat intake as much as possible.
I don't eat a whole lot of meat.
Well, then it might be easier to completely cut it out. Then that would be
No,
maybe your next step.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay,
Well,
well,
wait till you listen to this whole show.
Okay, I
And,
am totally a listener.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you so much,
you're
guys.
welcome. Okay.
Love ya.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye now. Yeah. So, we've got another caller. Let's see. Caller, okay. Okay, caller, you're on the air.
Hello, I just have a quick one, and I haven't checked lately. I don't have the latest info. There's some type of resonant imaging as an alternative to the, whatever you call it, the colonoscopy. And so it's resonant imaging or whatever else it's called, I forgot. And also you can keep up with the occult blood in the stool, the occult blood, fecal occult blood test.
Yeah.
And you have to follow the instructions because you have to stay off vitamin C a couple days. And I usually get the stuff, but then I never finish the test. So got to at least do that. As far as colonoscopy, it is not without risks. There's accidental perforations. I just happen to know everything, though. And so it's not without risk and potential cross-contamination. That scares me to death, too, the potential for perforation and or cross-contamination.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm going to try to keep up with the occult stool test, which I usually never do, and then look for, well, it's probably very expensive. You have to see if there's coverage for electronic resonant imaging, some type of imaging, and I forgot the exact name of it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
That's a non-invasive procedure, but then that might have other risks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, there's, what they're looking for. And, I want to get on with the show because we've got a couple of people who have a lot of good things to say. And so I'm going to quit reading, but I just want to say one last thing about colonoscopies is that what are they looking for? They're looking for polyps and they're looking for tumors. So they're not looking for an impacted bowel, which is an immense and huge problem in the vast majority of Americans. And so because of all the toxicity, mucoid material, and then toxicity from diet will get mixed up with that growing mucoid situation in the bowel as it closes and closes more and more, much like plaque does in arteries and veins. And they're not looking for that because they don't understand the implications of an impacted bowel. They're, again, looking for tumors and polyps usually. So, you only find what you're looking for. It's like anything else. So I just wanted to mention that. So let's go ahead and start talking with my guests here on the show, and because they've got some good things to say. And I want to first talk with Lori here and ask where, we talked about this briefly, where do vegans get their protein?
Protein basically is in everything. And so there's a lot more protein in vegetables than people think. There's a great DVD that came out last year. It's about a half hour long. It's called Dude, Where Do You Get Your Protein? And it can be found at ravediet.com. And I highly recommend that because it really, really explains about protein. And the fellow that produced it, Mike Anderson, interviewed a lot of people and asked them basic questions. How much protein do you think there's in celery? And, most people said, celery? Oh, there's no protein in celery.
Right.
Celery, actually, about 17% of it is protein. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at beef, it's 26% protein. So, that's not a whole lot more. Broccoli has just as much protein as red meat as well.
This is a very, very good point, because that's been the stalwart question, mm-hmm. that along with the B vitamins, mm-hmm. Almost everybody that questions a vegetarian or vegan diet. Mm-hmm. Where do you get your protein? And I read years ago, there's protein in everything. It can't grow without protein. Anything that grows has got to have protein in it, because those are building blocks of actual what become flesh or tissue of the plant, of the human, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a very excellent point. Go ahead.
Yeah, asparagus, for instance, is 44% protein. Spinach is 50% protein. It goes on and on. There is a protein deficiency called kwashiorkor, something like that, and starts with a K. And there's really known cases of that in this country, vegetarian or meat eating. You have to be severely malnourished, to have protein deficiency, and it just doesn't happen here in this country. But so another thing you can just think of, if you're getting enough calories, which hopefully we all are, you're getting enough protein. But protein, in my opinion, based on everything I've read and heard doctors talk about, is way, way overrated. We don't need as much protein as all those, I don't know, regulated by the food industry,
dairy
posters
industry,
and stuff. Yeah, that we grow up in classrooms seeing our, food pyramid. Now it's my plate, which is divided up in quarters. 1/4 of that plate is protein. The other quarter is vegetables, nuts and seeds, grains. Like, there's no protein in those other 3/4 of the plate. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
but anyway, the milk industry and the dairy industry, or the meat industries, egg industries, are so huge. They have huge lobbying efforts with their government, and they basically make the rules, literally make the rules. They will get very upset with the government when they're redesigning the pyramid, every a decade, I think it is, and so pyramid, they've been trying to make meat less and less and dairy on the thing, but on the pyramid, but the industries kind of,
They run show because they got the big bucks.
Exactly.
Big bucks, big money, big power.
So it's not a problem. I mean, mother's milk has only 5 to 6% protein in it. Mm-hmm. That's all babies need, especially the first 2 years of a human being's life. It's only for the massive growing that a 1 to 2-year-old does. After that, it slows down. Mm-hmm. During adults, we're just kind of maintaining it. If you are an extreme athlete, you might want to take in a little more protein, but that just means more of the high-protein, plant-based foods.
Right. There are great world-class athletes that are total vegetarians.
Yeah. So it's totally overrated, and that's all I can say.
In fact, according to the China study, those people globally that had the lowest protein intake lived the longest. Mm-hmm. They were the healthiest. They had like 9% protein intake. 9%. So, and they were found to be quite healthy. So it's becoming, I think, with more and more information like this, it's becoming less and less of an issue, or should, in my humble opinion.
Well, the body also
So-
produces its own protein as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're just not only getting, we're obsessed with protein, but we're also taking in an excess
Right.
of protein.
Exactly, because there are only 8 essential amino acids that you need to get from food. The other 12 the body creates. So good point, Vicki. Okay, so what do I eat instead of meat, cheese, and milk and eggs, Lori? A loaded question.
Everything else but that. You know, again, you kind of have to step out of the box and realize that everybody eats vegetables, grains, fruits, nuts and seeds. You know,
Granola.
yeah, granola. Ask Stephen; he can tell you all about that. But yeah, I just eat everything but that, and there's just so many. I found there's just so many recipes. I'm not a make stuff by scratch kind of person. I like to have recipe books, but I also eat pretty low on the food chain by steaming my vegetables, eating a lot of whole grain fruits. There's starch is excellent if you get in potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, you know, not white rice, but brown rice, etc. And so, I mean, there's just a plethora of different things.
Like I was mentioning on the show, and we were kind of laughing about this, and you just referenced it. When I became vegetarian, or at least quit eating red meat in 1969, we didn't know what vegetarians ate. And so some of you folks may not know out there also. So Lori just explained it a little bit. And I didn't know in 1969. I didn't think, gee, well, there's grains, there's cereals, there's fruits, there's vegetables. And for me at the time, of course, there was dairy, because I was just getting off of red meat. So I didn't even think of all that, nor did the rest of my entire household. We all went through this basic transition from eating red meat to what we thought was vegetarian, which was certainly a good beginning. And we just started creating granola. This was 1969. So we ate almost nothing but granola for weeks. We made our own granola, and as I was telling the ladies here with me, that I started calling it graviola because it started feeling like gravel going down my gut after all those weeks of basically 3 meals a day of granola, if you can imagine that. So, okay, anyway, so there's this constipation in children. Talk about that and its relationship to dairy.
Well, a doctor that I really, really respect, Dr. Michael Greger, recently sent out, I get his emails every day. He does a DVD or a blog every day, a very short DVD, 2 to 5 minutes. His most recent one was about the relation between dairy, constipation, and children. And I personally don't remember having a problem with that when I was a kid, although I remember as an adult. But I remember earaches, which is another culprit caused by dairy. But I used to have earaches when I was 4 or 5 years old. But kids apparently are very constipated. And so when studies show that when they took dairy away from the kids constipation went away. When they took, or, you know, like just drinking a glass of milk every day. Then when they took olive dairy away, apparently there's something called anal fissures, F-I-S-S-U-R-E.
Cracks,
And that are very painful, and kids apparently commonly have that. And so when you take dairy completely away from them, all that stuff goes away, heals within days. Several times they put them back on dairy, the stuff came back. Then they took them off dairy, the stuff went away. So again, kids only need dairy in the very formative early years when their mother has their mother's milk. Once it's gone, they're weaned just like any other mammal, and we don't need dairy anymore. And I wanted to mention again that 5 to 6% of mother's milk is protein. A lot of tests were done earlier, decades ago, with rats. But rats' protein, or rats' mother's milk has 50% protein because you have to grow a rat really, really, really fast. So anyway, we should only compare our protein requirements with our bodies, with our mother's milk, not other animals.
Okay.
Did I answer that?
Yeah. Oh, we've got a caller.
Yeah.
Don your headsets if you haven't already. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Laurie.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Dennis.
Hey, I just want to say, a lot of us are vegetarian for other reasons rather than health. They, might be a part of their spirituality or the path that they're following.
Good point.
So, that's a reason, just for instance, I became a vegetarian because, it definitely has its benefits. So sometimes, a person might think about that as how they might be feeling, consciously.
Right.
How it's making them feel. So
Right.
that's just another point.
Well, it's a very important point. It's a very valid point, and that seemed to buttress what I was going through back in the early 70s with regards to dropping off meat, because as I went to TM residence courses and so forth, I realized, they're not serving any meat. Why not?
Yeah.
And so as I learned about the Vedic tradition, I learned that there are these three energies, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and that all meat is tamasic or destructive in nature according to Vedic information, Vedic literature.
Yeah.
So you get that tamasic aspect of meat. It drags consciousness down, holds consciousness down. So that's according to Vedic literature. So I think that's probably why most spiritual masters poo-poo eating meat.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would know, being who you are in your practice, that there's evidence that show that some of these things actually produce thoughts of anger and stuff like that. That's sometimes emotionally it's a release. Sometimes with meat and alcohol, for instance, that you might think about that if you're an angry person all the time. And
This is a very good point. I'm glad you made this point, because it gets into the metaphysical, but I'm not concerned with treading into the metaphysical. That's fine. It's part of my domain. But I've heard also that we're taking on the anguish and suffering of the animal when it was killed when we eat it. So, again, that's pretty metaphysical, and I don't have anything to substantiate that, but I've heard that many, many times. So
Okay. Hey,
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
come on around there. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, excellent, very excellent. I'm glad you called in,
Stephen,
Dennis.
can I add something?
Go ahead.
I've read a lot of books about vegetarianism, veganism, and it's true. Most of them talk about the health aspects, because that's what people generally start out with. I'd say more than the other reasons, but including myself, it was about health. But once I started learning about the environmental impacts, the horrors of the factory farms, and any type of raising of animals, whether it's grass-fed beef, farmed fish, whatever, the animals have to die. And to me, there's no such thing as humane slaughter. And
Good point.
An excellent book I would recommend is The World Peace Diet by Will Tuttle. And Stephen, I know you
And
had
of course,
him
Will
on
Tuttle
your
was
show.
on our show here a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I highly recommend that book, because his is the only book that I've come across out of the dozens I've read that goes to that aspect, the spiritual aspect. He covers
peace.
that
Is it peace?
World
is it
Peace
or
Diet?
Peace.
World Peace. World Peace.
P-A-C-E, not P-E-A-S.
What way are we doing this?
World peas now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes into all the aspects of the reasons why it would benefit everybody to go vegan, but also he really gets into the spiritual aspect, and I highly, highly recommend that.
Yeah, terrific. So before we start talking about macrobiotics and talk to Vicki about that, I want you to, if you will, talk a little bit about Cowspiracy, the movie. Will you, please, Lori?
Oh, that is a new documentary that just came out. It's called Cowspiracy.
Spell it.
Cowspiracy. And it basically, the producers, two young producers of this movie, went where no one else seems to want to go, and that is the fact that about 50% of the the gas emissions that are causing global warming is caused by animal agribusiness.
Methane gas. Okay, we got a caller here. Caller, you're on the air.
I just wanted to say thanks for doing a show like this, and I was glad to hear somebody talk about how the animals are actually treated at factory farms, and you guys were giving shots out for different documentaries. You might mention one called Vegucated. It's all over the internet. People can watch it for free, but very informative about how they actually treat animals that we eat every day and take for granted the way that they're actually treated their entire lives.
I second that. It's a very good documentary.
Thank you guys very much. It's nice to actually hear something good on the radio and informative, so thank you very much for your show.
Okay. All right. Thank you, caller. Bye-bye. Okay. So we're talking about Cowspiracy.
Yeah, it's just been released. I am hoping I can get it. I have a copy of the DVD. I would like to be able to, say, have Second Sunday Cinema show it, so I'm working on that.
Good.
But anyway, these fellows, a fellow who started out not even being vegetarian, much less vegan, was very interested when he heard about the high amount of impact that agribusiness had on our environment. So he went to find out more about it and why, and he went to all the environmental organizations like Sierra Club, Greenpeace, etc., and noticed that the only thing they really talked about was fracking, or oil production and blah, 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 being the leading sources of environmental destruction. But actually what it is animal agribusiness, and that's from raising the animals themselves to taking away all our rainforests for raising cattle, grazing, as well as growing soybeans and et cetera
Corn
to
and
feed
soybeans,
to feed them. So about 91% of the rainforests are decimated because of this one sole purpose. So anyway, he finds out that it's not, even when he goes to speak to these environmental offices, they don't know this, or if they do know it, they don't want to talk about it because, well, you have to watch the movie to find out why. It's just really, really a one-of-a-kind documentary that I think is just going to be a deal breaker. I think kind of like Forks Over Knives was as far as plant-based diet is concerned. So I highly recommend Cowspiracy. Keep track of it at cowspiracy.com, and hopefully it'll be shown sometime here in the near
Can that
months.
be downloaded on the internet, I wonder, or it's just available in DVD only?
It's DVD. I'm not aware of it. It's not on YouTube. There's a good 15-minute long trailer of it on YouTube. So I would check it out there, and it gives a good overall summary of the movie, if nothing else.
Great. Before we start talking with Vicki and macrobiotics and so forth, I want to mention that Chef Steve's, as you wrote here, is the only vegan restaurant, not only in Lake County, but as far as I know, the only one in the North State above the Bay Area. So it's good food, folks. He's been open just a little over a year now, and it's reasonably priced. It's organic. It's not only the only vegan, but it's the only organic restaurant in at least Lake County. So 2 excellent reasons, and he'll talk your head off. He's a great people person, and I just want to say God bless Chef Steve. I'm so glad he's here. That's the only restaurant, really, that I go to in Lake County. There are others where you can go order a salad, and you can get things, of course, vegetarian. However, are they organic? Probably not. And if it's that important to you as it is me, then that doesn't leave you a huge choice. So Chef Steve's in Middletown. Last thing, Lori, give us your contact information with regards to the vegan potlucks.
Again, just email me at patotska@pacbell.net, PATOTZKA@pacbell.net, and I can put you on my email list for my once-a-month announcements for these once-a-month potlucks the first Sunday of the month. And all the food is vegan, but not the people attending are necessarily vegan. You don't have to be. But it's a really good community, and it's been going on for over 5 years, and it's pretty cool.
And your phone number is?
994-1618.
Terrific, terrific. You know, and here it is. We only have 10 minutes. I haven't spoken to Vicki yet. We're going to get to her right now. But
I'm going to stay after the show's over.
I'm realizing that I have tons of information also, a lot of it about environmentalism and and vegetarianism. And I think that what's going to happen is I'm going to do another show on this very important topic. So having said that, Vicki, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. And let's talk about macrobiotics and so forth. What have you got to say about macrobiotics and what we've been talking about?
Basically, and I've kind of probably created macrobiotics to be a bigger world than it originally started out. I kind of encompassed so many things into it. But basically, I think for that gal who called in, I think macrobiotics often appeals to a lot of people. It's a good baby step place, even. I mean, it's a very serious level of eating, but it's also a good baby step place to start. I just find that no matter if you call yourself macrobiotic or vegan or vegetarian or you eat whole food or seafood, and whole food meaning people eat like whole chickens and whole steaks, and seafood people eat everything, food they see, they eat it. So I find that macrobiotics, even though it sounds like a cult, I find that it really is it takes you back to the beginning that many of us were started out when we were born. We were born into macrobiotics. And I was born on a ranch and farm, and where it was everyday life was to shoot the cattle. We had beef ranch, and we took the cattle to the big hook, and we hooked it up there, and we cut the animal up. To me,
now, how did you feel about that as a little girl? Was that something that...
Well, see, that's the thing, that was everyday life. That's that's what you do.
Yeah,
and, we didn't question it because we weren't born into questioning. And just like any more than you grew the garden, and we had a wood stove, a wood cooking stove. We didn't have a TV. TV wasn't even around at that time. But so we lived, say again, macrobiotically, that I find, and I'm not jumping around, but with your time, but the body really is an incredible machine. Mm-hmm. You want to call it a machine? It's incredible. It's perfect, and what it needs, it provides. Your backyard, your life provides.
Right.
For
We've got a caller here.
Okay,
so
go
ahead. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Stephen. This is Ellen. I was just calling because I switched over from being a conventional meat eater, didn't know how to make anything besides an avocado sandwich, to being a vegetarian and then gradually a vegan.
Uh-huh.
And who inspired me was Frances Moore LePage. I read some of her books, Diet for a Small Planet.
Yeah.
And Andy's had her on as an interview a few times, too. And she just really reassured me when I read that book. I could balance out, the protein with the grains, and that was like an ancient diet, and I was going to be fine.
Good.
So I learned how to make more than an avocado and a cheese sandwich.
You're like me with the granola. Gee, what is it besides granola? What do vegetarians eat?
Yeah, I just went and got some books on gourmet vegetarian cooking, and it turned out really good. We went to the World Vegetarian Conference and picked up some good recipes there, too.
Oh, terrific.
Like nut loaf and everything.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having the show.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Go ahead, Vicki.
Oh, so basically macrobiotics, it's really, keeping you eating local and eating clean, which people can, do that today by, say, buying. If you want to eat meat, so again, I recommend to like that gal who called in, if she, doesn't want to give up her meat, the way she can baby step it is to eat local and clean.
Yeah.
And that way, even though it's still she's eating protein, but she's not eating, because really as the protein comes down to, which is one of the worst parts of not just things you inject into the animal, but just the protein itself. But at least it baby steps you into, each category.
Yeah. Did you raise like cattle? Did you have like a calf that you would raise up and you took to 4-H? Were you part of the whole 4-H?
No, there was no 4-H of that time that I'm aware of. But that's what I say. I got into vegetarianism all on my own. It wasn't even in the dictionary, and it was very hard to.
Now, how old are you, Vicki? Wasn't in the dictionary.
It wasn't even in the
got
dictionary.
Another caller here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, yes. Excuse me. You're talking about eating local, because I do eat meat. Not all the time, but I do buy local meat from a butcher, and it's really good meat.
But is it clean? Is it local as far as organic and raised?
Oh, well, I don't know.
I mean, is it still commercial?
No,
In other words,
it's not like from.
are there
not like
are there
from
hormones?
Safeway
Is
or
it feed it
anything like
hormones?
that.
Are there
I can tell
synthetic
you where it's
fertilizers?
from.
Yeah. So when you say it's local, that has a nice, cute ring to it. Oh, it's local. That's great.
It's totally local.
But what is the, but like Vicki says, what does that mean?
It's in Lucerne.
Okay, we know it's local. It's Lake County. But what are those cows,
they'll be
pigs? What are they
raised?
fed? What are they given drugs? Are they given hormones? Are they given stimulants? Are they given antibiotics? Are they grass-fed, or are they fed grain and cereals that
Boy,
might
I don't
even
know
contain
about
other
all that.
animals?
Yeah, those kind of things just inquire yourself, and therefore you can feel good about your body.
Okay, but the biotic thing, is there a supplement?
I'm not sure.
To do what?
The megabiotics.
Macrobiotic?
Macrobiotics.
That's a philosophy of eating. Philosophy of world, not just eating.
Well, I know, but I can't do it overnight.
No. That's why I say macrobiotics is a great place to start. And it's not even really I don't even want to give it a word. And that's why I'm saying, to me, getting into a consciousness of eating really is getting excited about.
Which
We've lost
I
our
am.
relationship with our food. Get back to your relationship with your food. And that's where it's a great
Correct.
place to start. Bang pots and pans in the kitchen. That's where I started. And that's where it's a food. I'm in love with the colors, the combinations. I'm like, from the Frankenstein era of experimentation. We all we're born like in spaghetti and steak. And I'm thinking, why were we born like in spaghetti and steak and we hate kale and greens? What's up with that?
Greens. Yeah,
well, I understand that, but I'm just saying, as a rule, we seem like French fries before we like Brussels sprouts. What's up with that? So that's my thing, is getting involved with food, is get involved and have fun with the food. Have fun with it, and your body will tell you, oh, I can't take any more meat. It's not the meat. It's what your body is telling you. I want more of this, want less of that.
I'm not hung up on meat.
Right. And your body. Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying as an overall of the people.
But I kind of want like a supplement. Mm-hmm. It's like my sister, going through cancer 3 times.
Well, what's your favorite kind of foods? What's your favorite kind of foods you like to eat?
Lord have mercy. Pasta, bread, potatoes.
Well, have that and have more vegetables in your pasta, and so you kind of keep.
I
adding
love
more vegetables.
asparagus and spinach and broccoli.
Yeah.
One thing I mentioned earlier, and this is one thing I bring up with almost all my patients, is that I talked about this on the show about almost an hour ago. It's 5:57 right now. We've got to get off here real soon.
I'm sorry.
But you want to make sure that your blood is alkaline. If you're too acid, you're going to be definitely prone to disease and disorder. And you get these little pH strips or litmus paper. You've probably heard of the word litmus paper.
Yes, I have.
So go to a good drugstore.
I could get that over the counter.
You can go to CVS or whatever and get litmus paper. Test your saliva in the morning. Test your second pee. Not your first pee. Test your second pee, and put there on the paper with saliva and pee, and it'll give you a number and a color, and see if you're acid or alkaline. You want to be over 7.0. That's neutral. So one way you can monitor your health is by doing just that. If you're too acid,
that's interesting.
Too acid, then you need more fruits and veggies in your diet. Grains and meats are all acid. Okay?
That is really good information.
Yeah. I'm here for a reason.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I learned so much from this KPFZ channel.
Oh, that's good.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Okay, thank you
All right,
for calling in. Bye-bye. Okay, go ahead, Vicki. We've only got about another minute.
Oh, this is Lori. I just wanted to tell the caller, let her know about a website called nutritionfacts.org. I believe that's what it is, nutritionfacts.org. Or you could Google Dr. Michael Greger again at the library if you need to go there. He has an alphabetized index, and there you will find enough information that would really educate you about diverticulitis. You could also go to drmcdougall.com. He would have information if you do a search on his website, drmcdougall.com, drmcdougal. So I highly recommend those websites, caller.
Okay. She hung up. Okay, you there, caller? I guess not.
No.
Okay. So we have to call it quits now. We only have 20 seconds left. I want to do this again because I know I have a ton more information. Sure. I know both of you. Vicki, we hardly got to you. And I know Lori has a ton of information too, and this definitely deserves. Caller, I'm sorry I can't get to you because we only have 10 seconds left. But I want to thank you both, Vicki and Lori, for being on the show. I thought it was a tremendously valuable show. I want to do this again, pick up where we left off. God bless you, thank you, and stay tuned for Democracy Now!